So there's different ways to demonstrate your knowledge, but the problem is that every single way to demonstrate your knowledge requires motor skills and intentional motor skills. I'm talking about the inability to put your thoughts or your intention into action. There's some kind of disconnect. And so we call that like a brain-body disconnect, where the brain, they have an idea, they have thoughts, they just can't either speak them or show you or go and do what they want to do because of this breakdown in the nervous system. Essentially is what it is.
One of the controversies I've heard about spellers is that it's just another autism therapy. You're looking to get rich. I'm like, hold up. There is training parents to do it at home. Where's the money?
Right.
Follow the trail.
She did amazing. Like, unbelievable. So she was my first client here, first spelling client that I ever worked with. And she is now going to graduate school.
Whoa. All right, what if one of the greatest tragedies in autism isn't that some people can't speak, but that we've mistaken silence for absence? For decades, we've assumed speech reflects intelligence, but what if that's not true? Today's guest is Dr. Dana Johnston, co-founder of the Speller's Method, and we're diving into the science behind spelling, the controversies surrounding it, because we all know I love a good controversy, and what it means to presume competence, and why this conversation is challenging how many people think about non-speaking individuals, and whether you leave convinced, skeptical, more skeptical, or simply asking better questions. I hope you'll never look at communication the same. This is the UNspecial podcast. Dr. Dana, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Zach. I'm looking forward to the conversation and the controversy because I'm the same. It's like, might as well dive in.
Right. Fun story, though. So we've spent a considerable amount of time in Mexico at a cancer clinic. And at these clinics, I mean, you get a whole array of different people from all over the world. But we were in there, and the first trip we went there was a couple there, and they had a non-speaking child from here in Escondido. And I was like, no way. We're like, 15 minutes apart. Then we became friends, and then he started telling me that he does spelling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And then every day, I think we had like an overlap of probably 10 days, but I kept asking him every day, like, what's he saying? What's he saying? What's he saying? And then at the end, the dad, and normally all of the spelling went towards the mom and like their communication. But at the end, he said to his dad, and guys, we don't like to get emotional or cry. That's why it's hard to have these conversations with dads. But he said to me, he's like, he spelled last night that he wants me to come home. And I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. It's it's amazing. Like I was saying just before you press record, like I am blessed to be able to do what I do every day. Like it's just there's never a day that it's boring. There's never a boring day. Never a boring day.
Always something happening.
Yeah.
All right, rapid fire some questions.
Okay.
You have like 5-word responses or 30 seconds or 30 seconds.
Okay.
All right, one myth about non-speakers you wish would disappear forever.
That being a non-speaker means that you can't think and understand.
Yeah. Most misunderstood word in autism.
Nonverbal.
Ooh. All right. I already want to go in so many different directions. Sticking to it. Two more questions. A book every parent should read.
Kind of maybe biased with our own book that we wrote.
Totally. That's fair. The
Speller's Guidebook. Yes.
Finish this sentence. Communication is
a human right.
Oh, okay. Can you differentiate non-speaking and non-verbal?
Oh, Yes. So when I started in this field, so I've been working in autism for over 20 years, and that's what we were told. It was nonverbal, but
Mm-hmm.
nonverbal means without words, like when you translate it, and like from Latin to, English, it's without words. And when you're in this every single day, it's not at all that they don't have words, it's that they can't speak. So that's where that shift came from nonverbal to non-speaking, because that's really the issue. Now when I'm talking to either large groups or wanting to educate, I'll still use nonverbal and then talk about it, because that's what the majority of people know and understand. But as I've been in this field longer and longer, it's starting where I'll hear non-speaking, which is so great, because the people are understanding what that actually means.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's definitely one of the misunderstandings
Mm-hmm.
if of probably mostly like society and people outside
Mm-hmm.
the special needs community
Mm-hmm.
is obviously intelligence. They tie intelligence to speaking, but just how it's such a motor movement,
Yes.
and you have to train the motor skills to be able to do it. But
Yeah.
everyone thinks, intelligence, you can talk, but can you go into some of the motor movement stuff?
Yeah, I was just going to say, like, it is for sure the speaking. I mean, and I think, I mean, full disclosure, if I met somebody who was non-speaking in the past, I would think that they have a cognitive disability, right? Like, we were brought up, and this is just what society has on these individuals. And so I think, it goes beyond that, because there are individuals or professionals, I should say, where it's like, okay, yes, but they fail tests and they can't, like, so speaking is one way to communicate. And then, like, if you're to demonstrate your knowledge too. So if you're in school, you're going to then say, okay, well, if you can't write because your writing's illegible, then they're going to say, okay, let's do it, you can just tell me the answers, right? So there's different ways to demonstrate your knowledge, but the problem is that every single way to demonstrate your knowledge requires motor skills and intentional motor skills. So my clients that I work with who have significant motor differences, meaning they can be really impulsive, they can be really dysregulated, they can get stuck in their body and not move. And what that is called is whole body apraxia. And
Mm-hmm.
some of your listeners may be familiar with apraxia, because that's common in, even special needs as a whole field, where they're really talking about the inability to clearly articulate your speech. And so speech therapists will diagnose that. There isn't any term aside from dyspraxia where it's like, okay, the whole body's affected. But dyspraxia is very much like, I was taught that when I'm an occupational therapist. So I was taught about dyspraxia. And that is like clumsiness, right? Like, I'm uncoordinated, I'm clumsy, like that kind of thing. I'm talking about the inability to put your thought or your intention into action. There's some kind of disconnect. And so we call that like a brain body disconnect, where the brain, they have an idea, they have thoughts, they just can't either speak them or show you or go and do what they want to do, because of this breakdown in the nervous system,
Mm-hmm.
essentially, is what it is. So it's not a formal diagnosis yet. We're working on that, but it's very significant in the population that I work with. And I would say that those with autism, and again, we know autism is a spectrum. I work with the more complex autistic individuals, and they all have whole body apraxia, which I, you know, really am focusing on making that my mission to educate, because when I think about the parents that I meet all the time who, I don't know if my kid can spell, like, they can't even identify, more than like 4 letters consistently. So how is he or she going to do this? And I'm like, because they have a motor disability. It's not a cognitive or thinking or learning or understanding disability. And that's hard. That's hard to kind of go, oh, okay, so let's try this, right? Like, it's not. They need to have an understanding, an explanation. And once I kind of give them that, then they're like, oh, so that's why he's doing this or she's doing this or not doing this or this. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly it. So then they start to kind of like identify other, day-to-day things that they struggle with. So it goes beyond just fine motor skills and gross motor skill challenges. This goes into like timing and their ability to like give enough pressure, not as much pressure, start your body, stop your body. Like, it goes way beyond just the fine and gross motor skills that I was taught, right? That's my,
Yeah.
education is that, and it goes far beyond that.
Well, and that's why I love spellers and like PX Docs, Dr. Tony, of
Mm-hmm.
you know him, and
Yep.
neurofocus chiropractic is like your people are the profound families, and that's what I taught, and that's what I know, and so all the controversy that's kind of blown over a little bit with RFK and all the finding the cause and all that stuff. When all that was going down, I was like, finally, somebody is giving these parents some attention.
Yes.
And then I saw all the like everyone going crazy, and I'm like, whoa, what did he even say that was wrong? Like these families live 24/7, like very scared, especially the students I had, of their
Mm-hmm.
safety and violence and
Mm-hmm.
all of that stuff. And then just hearing testimonials of spellers and PX docs and what that's doing for a lot of these families is like just blows me away.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the reality that nobody would talk about. And I think, not that we want to go necessarily far down this path, but I think when I heard RFK talk about it, it was for me, I think just like what you said, finally,
Yeah.
because all of these parents that, you and I work with are being gaslit and have not been heard. And we, have been fighting for them and for their kids, and nobody's listening. Nobody's
Hmm.
listening. It's just like, well, we'll just pretend that there isn't this population. And I think that obviously is not only hurting the child, but obviously the parents and the whole family. And so when spellers started, and I mean, spelling as a method of communication has been around for years and years, um, but I think that it started to then give really other the general public, especially when the documentary came out and even the telepathy tapes, right? Like, that was just this big blow up. I mean, Rogan was talking, I mean, I turn around
Yeah.
and some other podcast was talking about it. And
Uh,
the question isn't, do I think that, these non-speakers are telepathic? It's more, yay, now the general public is actually paying attention to these individuals who are very smart and have the ability to learn and have learned so many things that they can't demonstrate. And why is it that they can't demonstrate it? Is because they have a motor planning disability. And so I think that was where I was like cheering, because I'm just like, and yes, I want, all of my clients who have major medical issues and who did come from, because I sit with parents all the time. My child was totally fine, and then
mhm.
they weren't. And so, like, they're the ones that are being pushed, like, no, 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 that didn't happen. What you see did not happen. And I'm just like, so I was thrilled when that went on. And then beyond that, all the other things that have come from it for those families who have complex autism or profound autism, because it's a real thing. They are in it 24/7.
Yeah. And that was the big reason I started the podcast. Just
Mm-hmm.
I sat on the idea for years, And all the parents of the students I taught, I just admired them so much. I'm like, I don't know how you do this every single day. Like, I have your child for 6 hours, and it's, you know, I go home, and you do this all day, every day. Even when they're at school, you're still thinking about them. Like, when am I going to get the phone call that he hit somebody? He has to come home. And like, my goal is to never call you. I used to like have a scale. I'm like,
Yeah.
do you want me to call you if he hits somebody, or if like he hurts somebody? Like,
Right.
when do you want a phone call? Most of them were like, don't call me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not
Yeah.
calling.
Yeah.
Um, and so just, yeah. And then unfortunately, every conversation, I tried to avoid it early on in the podcast. We're almost at our 100th recording.
Wow.
I know.
Great. Congrats.
Thanks. I think there's like 96. But I tried to avoid the vaccine conversation. I mean, thankfully, Dale Bigtree came. I found him early on before I was having kids.
Hmm.
And it was my first year teaching a profound autism program. And I found Dell, and I remember looking around in my class like, what is going on? And I just had like a very keen interest. And I think that's God given. Like, I know He gifted me to work with the profound population. And I just found it so fascinating. Like, why do they operate how they operate? So I always had that lens, and then like apraxia, I didn't even know what that word was. I just
Hmm.
knew what I was seeing.
Hmm.
Like, but you know, a lot of their violent outbursts weren't on purpose.
Right.
And I would know it afterwards because they would come up to me, non-speaking. They had, you know, 4 or 5 words.
Yep.
One of my students could say sorry, and he would have this huge meltdown, break everything, but then he would come up to me 10 minutes later crying, saying sorry.
Yeah.
And I remember after a few of them, I'm like, dude, I don't think you meant to do that. You just can't, like, it just nothing, it's not
Yeah.
firing correctly.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so unfortunately, I mean, it's not getting any better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the misunderstanding of those who have complex needs, non-speakers, very dysregulated, and there's various reasons for that. And I feel like another great thing that's moving forward is those that are working towards supporting the medical needs of autism, because when I have a family come in and they're of course coming in for spelling, and they know that I understand the motor part of it, and I'll dig a little deeper, because if the individual is really dysregulated, and I tend to not use, especially, I mean, with the families, use words like aggression and violence, and it's I say dysregulation is just kind of a better term, but it also is what it is, because if you look at somebody who's violent or aggressive is pretty much intentionally doing, like, if I'm choosing to be
Mm,
violent in most cases, some not.
hmm.
Dysregulation, and I'm sure you've probably talked about this with Dr. Tony, is a disruption in the nervous system. And so you get into the part of the brain where you're not thinking anymore, right? And some of us, unfortunately, may have been in situations like that, where you literally black out and you're doing things that you don't know, nor do you remember. And I think that that's one of the challenging things, is because when autism, you're diagnosed, your child's diagnosed with autism, the typical protocol, if you will, or treatment is speech therapy, especially if they're delayed in speech, and OT, because the fine and gross motor skills are typically off, and ABA, or behavioral therapy, right? And I mean, I'm so grateful for the amazing behavioral therapists that I do know who get this, because
Hmm.
the majority of them don't. And unfortunately, it's now looking at every single quote negative behavior that the child does, is now we have to retrain that, right? Where as the behavioral therapists that I know are digging deeper. It's like, well, why is that happening, right? Like, why are they going into fight or flight instead of having to, you know, there's consequences to it, or take things away, or restrain, good, like God forbid that has to happen. Now I understand, you might be familiar with this, Zach, just in teaching, is like everybody has to be safe. So I
Yeah.
get that, right? Like I understand that everybody has to be safe. In some experiences with my clients, it has not been a good situation. So they are living with that trauma, in addition to I can't communicate, in addition to I am doing ABC 1, 2, 3 colors, shapes, numbers for the 10th year in a row,
Yeah.
because like it. So you can imagine, in a lot of cases, like I would be
Oh,
really heightened, right?
yeah.
And so their nervous systems are already almost at threshold, and then something, sensory input, emotion, something like that, just triggers this whole cascade and downward spiral, and we're not dealing kind of with that root cause, if you will, nor are we fully understanding what's happening there. So there's a lot of layers to it. It's very, I mean, this, it's very complex. The reason for it is very complex. There's many different, you know, um, reasons why I don't feel it's just one thing. I think there's a plethora. We live in
Yeah.
a toxic soup these days. Like you could go on and on.
The perfect
And
storm.
totally. And it's affecting all of us. Like it's not
Yeah.
just more neurodevelopmental disability. It's all of us, we're living in it,
Cancer.
and it's not good. It's not
Not,
good.
nothing
Yeah.
is improving. Chronic illness, just in general.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I get to look at that, consider that, educate families about what I know through my training and experience, but I also then get them to be able to communicate. And I mean, I haven't met a parent that says, okay, well, I just want to know what is hurting. I just want to know, like, why can they tell me why they're in pain, right?
Hmm.
Can they tell me, uh, just what happened? Like, like it's that kind of thing. And so I get to give them that gift of communication where they can learn more about their child. And I mean, my oldest client ever coming in was 58 years old. So
No way.
that was so
Wow.
cool. It was
That
so
is
cool.
rad.
Her parents came with her. They were in their 70s. She was 58. And so I mean, being able to communicate for the first time so it's never too late, never too late. That's what I want people to know.
Oh yeah, that's incredible. All right, so what you started out as an OT? How did spellers all? How did it all come about?
Yeah. So I'm originally from Canada, and did my undergrad in exercise physiology, and then I did my master's in OT. Started earlier, even before that, in working with kids with autism. So I knew right away that I wanted to get into and work with autism. It's fascinating, kind of like you, right? Like
Yeah,
so fascinating, and you meet one person with autism, you've met one, like it's just it's
you
so
never figure it out.
no. And I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
I mean, I want it to be figured out, yes, but
totally.
I love the never the same day, thing. um so then I moved to the US, and I did my PhD, because I was going to go like, oh, do I want to do more like OT stuff? Do I want to get, so I shifted, because like I said to you earlier, I don't have an affected child. And so I was like, I want to be able to educate families on this, but also really relate to them as much as I could. So I did my PhD on child mental health and development. And then I did my dissertation on the lived experience of a parent of a child with autism. So I
Oh
did like
wow.
literally, I mean, that's like the closest I thought I could do, right? And it
Yeah.
was then that I really, I mean, it was evident, and it's not anything that's going people are going to go, oh, I didn't know that. But essentially, those who have a complex child literally have stress levels equivalent to combat soldiers 24/7,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
I had a
yeah,
former Army Ranger on, went on 7 tours, and we talked about all those articles. He was
yeah,
like, "Yeah,
yeah,
100%."
yeah, for sure, for sure. So I learned so much, and that was, gosh, like 10 years ago now. And so, with the experience now that I have working so closely with families, and then, of course, with spellers, and learning from them to then teach and help me teach and talk with other families. So, I mean, spellers, so I mean, the documentary happened, and blessed to be a part of that. That was something that was just, it was fun, very fun to do. And then once that came out, we got together and was like, okay, let's, start to, we need more training. We need to train not only individuals to provide the services, but also have something where we can train parents who may not be able to travel with their kids. Because I was doing, and I still do, intensives where families come to me both in Tampa and Atlanta, because I have two centers, and they're like, yes, we want to be trained over a couple of days. It's great. But the reality is, not every complex child can get on a plane or drive, hours on end. So we created the online training for parents to just get them going, and that was all around COVID too. So I mean, the online thing, and that's really where it's grown, is in our trainings online, so that both we can train providers and parents to be able to do this. And then from there, because I was seeing such a large disconnect between, like I said, can my child do this? And, the big kind of terminology was, oh, presume competence, right? Like that was what was coming out, which is great. But like, teachers, they're going to say, you might have said this, Zach, like, I presume competence in your child. Because if you didn't say that to a parent, that would not be good. So you would never say,
Yeah.
no, I don't presume competence in your child. But what does that truly mean? I mean, I have therapists that I know that would say it, but then they go
We're
with a
still
16-year-old and do like
doing,
barnyard stuff. Like, no, you're
yeah.
not presuming competence, right? It doesn't mean that they know everything. It just means that I'm going to treat them like every other student walking into a classroom. You can learn. Like, that's all
Yeah.
that it means. But so many people couldn't get from what I'm observing with this individual who doesn't look like they're listening, look like they understand, they can't demonstrate it, to, okay, I'm going to presume competence. It was the whole body apraxia piece. Now I'm
Mhm.
giving them a reason as to why that's happening. So now you can have, slowly get your mind shifting to, even though they're in the corner with a blanket over their head, whatever, they're listening, and they've always been listening, and that's the reason why they haven't, is because of their motor disability. So that's when I like, you have jumped on YouTube and jumped on creating videos to be able to educate the educators, the therapists, the parents, because that was where that missing piece was, so that they could then jump into things like spelling. Because now it's like, oh, now I get it. Now I understand it's a motor thing, and not I'm testing them and their ability to spell. Two different things. I don't test spelling at all. Yeah.
Right.
We don't do
Well,
spelling bees or spelling tests or any of that.
no,
Yeah.
no. It's amazing though, because like even in the credential program, I mean, I haven't taught in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
COVID was my last. Well, I was teaching in Southern California. We moved to Idaho 2020 because of COVID.
Yep.
They shut down schools. My neighbor got fined for surfing. And I'm
Yep.
like, what am I doing? I'm filming cooking shows, which were pretty fun actually. And that's all I could do for my students. So like, it's time to move. We were talking about it already. And then in Idaho, I did 1 year, but they don't pay teachers anything. So I had to,
Yeah.
had to jump ship, but I always knew I'd get back into it. But even everywhere I've gone, and every quote unquote behavior specialist or SLP, there's never a conversation on presuming competence. There's never a conversation on praxia. I would get all these experts coming in from Boise into my class, and they would tell me how to handle behavior from the
Right.
textbook. And I one day I was just like, I couldn't do it anymore. I'm like, can you explain to me how you think this is going to be effective? You just saw that student for 10 minutes.
Yep.
Like, you don't know anything about him. Like, well, it's going to help him not run away. Like, he hasn't eloped in a month. Why are we
Yeah.
talking about this? You
Yeah.
know, like, well, his previous records and blah blah blah. Like, I solved it. You know what
Right.
the key was? Is stop locking the door. I just left the door wide open to the hallway, and he stopped running away.
Yeah.
It's like the little things, that they don't teach, which I feel like could be so much better. But some people just don't have it either.
Well, and that's the thing, right? Like let's talk about the competence in people, shall we? Or no,
Yeah,
let's not go there. That's a daily frustration some days with me. It's not
but
my clients, I'll take all of them. Let's come on. It's the people out there who
yeah.
are just like, no, I'm not going to believe that. I'm not.
So have you? How does it go? Well, one of the controversies I've heard about spellers
Yeah.
is that it's just another autism therapy. You're looking to get rich. I'm like,
Oh,
hold up. There is training parents to do it at home. Where's the
right,
money?
right.
Follow the trail. Anyways,
Yeah.
how do you work? Like, or for the most part, are parents, they have it. Like, they're going to be successful teaching their child.
Yeah, I mean, and I think we've done like the calculations, if you want to go that detailed, of like the years in ABA speech OT as compared to spelling, which, like I said, I will do intensive. So over 2 days, and I do 4 sessions. And I typically work with the individual for the first session because I need to figure out their regulation or lack thereof. I need to figure out how their body works, how their eyes work or don't work. And I need to get to know them. So then I have something to coach the parent on, right? So, but by the second session, I'm like, okay, mom, dad, have a seat. I'm going to be coaching you
Mm-hmm.
because, well, I love what I do every day and I would love to be communication partner for all of my clients. I'm not at home with them 24/7. Like parents
Yeah.
have to. And that's one of the things with Speller's Method when we created, when Domri and I put it together, it was like parents have to be a part of this. Like I will never forget, this is where it changed for me, was a parent came to me with a list of questions that I was going to ask their kid because I was the one that was trained with them. And I'm like, this is not how it should be. This should be a parent asking those questions. And so, I mean, dollar for dollar, you are going to spend like, I forget, JB Hanley was the one that said, you're working with you guys is like the cheapest. It
Yeah.
may, as an intensive over 2 days, it might be expensive in terms of just paying for that. But I have families that will come to see me and then go and practice because you have to remember that it's a motor planning disability. So when I explain it to parents, I'm like, okay, so do you guys play tennis or golf? Most of the time it's like yes or no, right? So if they don't, then I'll be like, okay, so imagine that I am your tennis pro and I walk up to you and I'm like, okay, go play. And they'd be like, that's not why I hired you. Like I've never touched a club. Or so what am I going to do? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to prompt, I'm going to help, I'm going to guide, I'm going to coach, right?
Yeah.
Think about that when you're learning the whole thing with spelling at first, because they have to learn the motor skills first. So I coach the family, they go home and they practice those motor skills, and then they're going to get to the tournament, the Olympics, the whatever that we say is open conversation. So
Mm.
you don't get to the PGA Tour in 2 weeks when you've never picked up a club before. And the reason isn't because you're cognitively delayed, it's because you don't have motor skills to be able to do it. That's how you have to think about spelling. You're not going to be able to sit down and go, so tell me all of your inner thoughts, son, right?
Right.
Like, no, you're not. He's got to practice the motor skills and be able to regulate his body. And that in and of itself takes practice. So I really try and like nail down on day one that you have to look at this as motor planning, and really this is like any of us learn a new motor skill. We have to practice it because you're not going to get to the PGA Tour if you practice once every other week. So,
Mm-hmm.
same thing, getting to open communication and this as a tool for communication, practicing once a week, going to a provider, that would be once a week, is not going to get
Not enough.
where it is.
Yeah.
So definitely the cheapest, and you do this at home and you get communication. So
Do you
yeah.
see that once some communication starts to develop, behavior starts to subside,
Mhm.
life starts to improve?
It helps. It
Mm-hmm.
helps. I'm not going to say like it eliminates,
Mm-hmm.
because many of my clients have medical issues. Many of them have intense gut issues, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we talk about behavior, and so the guy that you had, behavior interventionist, comes in, right? Dysregulation, it always happens at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Oh, I wonder if it has something to do with what they're eating and their gut is like, right? And so then he's going to give you like whatever that strategy is, and so we're still not dealing with that. Now with spelling, what's great is that you can ask questions to go a little deeper about, so when you eat this, do you feel it in your stomach? Like, we can start to narrow down what that is. And so much of the dysregulation is actually a result of that, the medical issues that are happening, inflammation, mitochondrial issues. Like, it's extensive in the autism population. And so yes, communication is going to alleviate that, but even better, because it's not just like, I want more juice or I want a break, right? Like, we're actually having a conversation together, the speller and
Mm-hmm.
I, right? So
Yeah.
he can respond and I can ask much more detailed questions. So that also is what's helping with some of those, more the dysregulation that we see.
Yeah, it's such a picture. It's all involved,
Yeah.
and you can't stop at the surface like of a textbook from a credential
Yeah.
program. So,
Or just to alleviate, like, okay, well, you get a Skittle if you do this, or you have a consequence if you do, like, whatever that it's essentially training, right? So, and I have many clients that have done that for years and years and years. And so I see the remnants of that just because everything is so automatic now. Like, so, it's some of my clients have said ABA was great because it helped me with XYZ. Others have had severe trauma with it, severe trauma.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
mhm.
yeah. So there's facilitated communication, rapid
Yep.
prompting method, spellers,
S2C.
S2C. What
Yep.
can you differentiate all of them for us?
Yes, I would love to, because when you look up these things and the criticisms, they lump them all together.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a big pet peeve of mine. So, facilitated communication is when you are physically touching the individual for support. Now, what does that mean? Okay, well, when you have autism or a neuromotor disability, you also will have sensory challenges. So that's pretty familiar with those with autism, because you think about auditory and it's too loud, or, I don't like this touching me, I don't like this shirt, this tag. Like, those are all sensory issues. Now, what we call proprioception, which is our body's ability, our brain's ability to figure out where a body is in space. So if I close my eyes and I raise my arm, my brain would know that my arm is up. Okay. For my clients, the majority of them don't have that body awareness. So for me to learn a new motor skill without body awareness, I'm going to be very frustrated and it will be very unsuccessful ish. Because it just is going to take a lot longer and a lot more practice. And hopefully somebody would be able to help you and give you some more insight into that to give you the awareness. So what facilitated communication does is that it gives your brain help to go, oh, here's your hand. Okay, now I can go, oh, all right, I feel my hand. Now I can type or touch a letterboard or whatever it is, versus I have no idea where my arm is in space. One, it's very dysregulating, so I'm not going to be able to sit for very long. And two, I'm not going to be able to touch a keyboard and then spell out my thoughts. Like I just, it's just way too demanding. So facilitated communication is physical touch to give the support for body awareness. Now, it's controversial because when you watch it, you can see it looks like somebody could easily influence, meaning I'm moving your hand. Totally understand that. Just like everything, there's bad apples in the group. There's
Right.
always bad teachers, there's always bad therapists, there's always, like you could go on and on, right? So
I
that's just
always
the
think
reality.
with that real quick, like
Yep.
what would the facilitator get out of that? Of like the bad
Well,
app? Like why would they? What did they
yeah, in the
accomplish?
past, it has been where there's been abuse allegations, right?
Uh,
So the facilitator could be a family member, it could be, somebody like a teacher, it could be, that's the problem. Like that's it, and untrained. Like that's the thing, and we can talk about training and why it's so important. And you can't just sit down and watch a YouTube video and do this, because the chances and likelihood of influencing are very, very strong. So that's the thing. Like, and that's why with RPM, with S2C, and with Speller's method, none of them will be touching the individual. Okay,
hmm
so now what we do though, instead of starting on a keyboard, because the keyboard is a very fine motor skill, we start with larger targets on a letterboard where we're practicing the motor movements and we're getting that motor plan in our brain so that we can start to do these motor movements. So we don't touch at all. Um, with RPM, that was created, and this is kind of a funny quick story, is that I remember when I was 13, sitting Sunday evening, my parents would watch 60 Minutes, and I was sitting on the couch with 60 Minutes, and I'm like, oh, look there's this Indian lady that is like having her son spell. And like, it was Soma with RPM, and I'm like, I was fascinated with, I was like, this is so cool. And then, nothing obviously came of that at that time. And and fast forward, I don't know how many years later, I had a friend, a colleague, who called me, and she's an OT. She's like, Dana, you need to see this. And I was like, okay. So she sent me some links. I looked at it, and just me being me, I'm researching everything. Got to look it up, got
yeah.
to both sides of the story, like deep into it. I'm like, I text her back, and I'm like, do you realize the controversy that's on this? Like, it's like being like, it's terrible. And
Uh-huh.
she goes, Dana, think about it like from a motor planning, like think about it from that perspective, and understand. I was like, the light just went off. It was like, oh, so I'm not sitting down and just asking questions and they're, spelling or typing. I'm like, there's a process to this. Okay, now it's making more sense. So then S2C at that time was starting. And so I was initially trained in S2C in the first cohort, and then was able to provide support from my perspective as an OT for their training program. And then I really felt strongly that we needed to do more for the whole body apraxia piece and understand that, as well as vision. We take our vision for granted, and the majority of my clients have vision challenges that go undiagnosed because they can't speak. And so I wanted to dive deeper into that. So then we created Speller's method with, focusing heavily on the motor and training our providers and educating our parents on the apraxia piece along with the vision. And then what really does differentiate us is getting the parent spelling like right at the beginning. So we're
Yeah.
not the ones that are, the only people that can spell with their child. So that's kind of the progression of it. And just like anything, I mean, I'm sure somebody else will come up with something and it will be, here's a different way of doing it. But but yeah, we work with many families, and we wrote the Speller's Guidebook, which is a good intro for parents to be able to learn more about it as well.
Yeah, where would be like the best place for families to start?
So, spellers.com is our website, super easy to navigate. And there you can find out more about our parent or communication partner training. You can
Hmm.
also, if you're interested in being a provider, we have information on our provider training as well. You can go to the Speller Centers. Right now, we have three. I have the one here in Tampa and the one in Atlanta, and I'm there back and forth. And then there's Speller Center Charleston with one of our senior providers, Brooke Poston. And so you can go there. And then anything on whole body apraxia, anything on motor coaching, YouTube, all of that is on my website, drdanajohnson.com. So everything links out, but yes, that's where people can find out more.
Yeah. All right. What are some of the most amazing things you've seen spelled?
The most amazing things. I would say that my very first client, when she was 2.5, when I first moved here to Tampa, I worked in an outpatient, just regular run of the mill OT center, and it's why I left too. It was terrible, but um, hopefully nobody's listening when I was working there. It wasn't that bad. It was just like a factory, right? The typical, and I'm like, this is a waste
Turn
of
and
money.
burn. Yeah.
It's just so she was at 2.5 and met her. I mean, working with her family. Then fast forward, gosh, it was probably 13 years later when I first learned about spelling and called her mom because we stayed in touch. And I'm like, she really needs to do this. I think she would just be so great. Her mom, biggest skeptic, like
Oh,
I
nice.
I doubt it. I don't, came in. Her mom actually didn't want to spell with her at first because it was just like this whole new paradigm shift. Because of course, like many parents, it's like your kid has an IQ of 40, they're just doing like life skills, like, who are you to tell me that that's any different? Um, she did amazing, like unbelievable. So she was my first client here, first spelling client that I ever worked with, and she is now going to graduate school to
Whoa.
study neuroscience.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just, oh, that's exciting.
yeah.
It's like when
So
you just believe in people. Every time
yeah,
I don't know, in high school, when I was teaching high school mostly, I love putting my students in electives. And I was a life skills teacher. And they were all like, "Oh, he can't go to wood shop. What, you're going to put him in welding? Are you kidding me?" I'm like, as long as we set him up for success, like he's
yes,
gonna be fine. And
yes,
yeah, there will be that offshoot day where something goes wrong. Like one of my students tried to sand everybody with the sander,
you know,
but that's the way it goes. And they always showed up and pulled through.
yep, yep. And that's the thing with expectations, right? And I think that that's also something that, well, I know it's what I talk about because I think parents lower their expectations. Not all, definitely not all. And you see the difference, right? You see the difference of, I just want him to be happy.
Yeah.
And, oh no, he's going to have chores in this house. And if he wants to, like, and there's everything in between. But to your point, Zach, like you had expectations and you believed in them that they could. And so they're internally going to rise to the occasion. I mean, that is what happens on a daily basis. And even when I tell parents, like, you've been talking to your 12-year-old, 15-year-old, 25-year-old child like they're 5. Do you need to go potty? Like, and again, I'm not saying to, make parents feel bad. That's an
Right.
automatic because you've done that forever. But it's things like dumbing it down almost like, foot on, hand out, eyes on me, like all these things. And I'm like, or you could just talk to them like they're 15,
Yeah.
but that's not what they're told. So it's not their fault. Like I'm not blaming them at
Uh huh.
all, but I'll challenge parents and I'll just be like, hey, for like today, just go home and talk to your child like they're their age, like think about another child that same age, and then how do you talk to them? That's how I want you to talk to your child. And I can't tell you how many parents come back and they're like, oh my goodness, like
Just
they're doing stuff. And I'm like,
oh wow.
yes, they are. So again, it's not at all like it's our fault, the professionals who, again, not that we all knew, I didn't know everything at one point in time, but it's those that, okay, now you do know, so you have to do better. Because if you don't, that's the problem.
Yeah, then you
That's the
just
problem.
become the problem.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are your take? We'll close it out, but I want to know your thoughts on it. Um, how all these spellers are starting to spell all the stuff they're seeing in the spiritual world,
Yeah.
and they have been
So
for a while.
for sure. And you're going to ask this question when you just said we're going to close it out. Like, what parents are going to be like, Zach? Yeah.
Well, so a quick story. When I was no, I wasn't. I was still a paraprofessional
Uh-huh.
before I became a teacher. We were doing the food bank at a church. It was summer school, and there's like 500 seats in in the sanctuary. And I go, I'm like, where do you sit in here, to one of the students? And she takes me to her seat, and we sit down. And she's tripping out, like looking up at the stage. I'm like, what do you? She could communicate. I'm like, what do you see right now? What are you doing? And she's like, there's angels. They're flying everywhere. It's so beautiful. It's so happy. I'm like, how? Well, I don't see them. And she's like, you can't. I can.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
Sorry, Zach.
come on. And then I see, I had Maggie on Letters with Elsie.
Yeah.
He's like spelling crazy
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know. I
Yeah.
believe it. Why
I
not?
mean, here's the thing. Like, I really feel just like, us, all of us, like if you want to say neurotypical, you can take that with a grain of salt, depending on,
Right.
but it's like we all have different strengths and abilities. And I'm not trying to water this down. I'll speak specifically to, non-speakers too. But it helped me to kind of go, whoa, okay, wait a minute, right? Because I'm a Christian. Faith, is really, I've always been brought up in the
Hmm.
church and have a very strong faith now. And so it made me kind of go, what am I kind of getting into here? Right. Like
Totally. That was
it's,
my first
yeah.
too.
And even talking with my husband, because he's like, what are you saying? Like telepathy? Like, what is this? Right. And I'm like, I feel like I have a very discerning
Yeah.
spirit. Like I have always been, I mean, as a kid, my mom was like, you're so sensitive. And so I feel like, and because I have been around, you know, situations where I'm like, there's evil here. Like I can just sense that. And I
Yeah.
don't, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to leave. Right. Like I feel it. Like I can really feel that. So I'd be working with these spellers and I'm like, that's what I thought. Like, I'm like, am I missing something? Like, should I be feeling and I'm looking at these individuals going like, there's no way, like,
Yeah.
there's no way. And then it went to like, well, God certainly has like a sense of humor, right? Like all these individuals are like way more attuned to the world than we think we're so in tuned, right? And
Totally.
they're like, oh, way higher level. And so anyways, coming back to where I'm at with it, I feel for sure like Chase, right, has gifts that
Totally.
he doesn't love it all the time because it comes with things, but I strongly feel he's got certain gifts. I have others spellers that, I mean, not that they're have to disclose everything to me, but that they definitely feel stronger connections to people, and they have such a deep empath type of
Hmm.
ability. And I firmly believe that they all do. It's just a different, it's like a spectrum too, right? Like it's just not all the same. And so um that's probably why I'm very connected, with this population, because I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. And I really do feel that we are just so oblivious. We're way too distracted. We're, you know, we're not able to pay attention to certain things. And I think
Right.
I'm working on that myself just because I feel like I'm not paying attention and I'm missing things that maybe God has for me. And I don't want that to happen. I want to be very present. And these individuals that I work with every day are like that. They're
Hmm.
present. They're able to see things, to hear things, and it's amazing. So I've had some conversations with various parents who struggle with it for sure, and I understand why. And I just explain kind of where I my journey with it, um, and I just let it sit there. I just let it sit
Right.
there. Yeah.
Doesn't have to be like black and white, you know.
Yeah,
It's
and I
still
can't explain it. I mean, it's way above my pay grade. I'm not going to
right.
say I know. I don't. I don't. But just because I can't find an answer doesn't mean it's not true. That's
Right.
right. Yeah,
Right.
that goes with a lot of things. So, anyway,
um. So you have we have the Spellers conference coming up
yes,
in
October 16th and
in my
17th.
neck of the woods.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes.
Where's it? Oh, it's down
Yeah,
San
Town
Diego.
Country in San Diego. Yep,
16th and 17th.
of
Uh,
October. Yep.
what's gonna be happening there?
Lots of fun. We have some amazing speakers that are lined up. As far as two solid keynote speakers, the every detail and information you can go to spellersfreedomfoundation.org and find the information there. I don't think the schedule's up quite yet, but all the speaker lineup is there. So Gary Prezant is a keynote, and he's a speech therapist and is super supportive of spellers, and I'm really looking forward to his talk. And then Elizabeth Bonker, which many may be familiar with. She's actually local from Florida, and she graduated from Rollins and now has a nonprofit, and it's her mission to get this out there. So she will also be, she's a typer, so she'll be our second keynote.
That's amazing. Well, I can't wait. This my part of my mission is to get everyone at least spread the word about spellers.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Zach. That's awesome.
And I look forward to seeing you there. Thank you so much for being on. It was a lot of fun. A little bit of controversy. We kind of held off a little bit.
We did. Yeah, we could definitely go down a number of roads, and that would be fine too. But
They
no, it was
would.
great. Thank you so much for the invite.
Thank you.